Hello and welcome to BusyWorksBeats.com. Today we continue the mixing series right here at BusyWorksBeats.com/mixing. Today I'm going to show you how to mix this track. We started with the Lifestyle Did It loop, added his drums in, and it turned into a track that I love. And I showed you all the parts from the beat making. That's part one. Part two was how I recorded the vocals onto the track. This part's going to be about the mixing, how to make it all sound more polished, so to speak. So let me put on my cans and let's hit play. So I have my my buffer very high, and it's kind of throwing me off hearing my own voice. It's because it's so delayed. But my buffer is very high, and that's because I want the plugins and stuff to not have to stress to work. So I'm giving it time to read the data or whatever it has to do, and not like cram information into a small door, basically. So that's what you're doing when you increase your buffer length. You're giving the system more time to process stuff. Okay, that's the processing for dummies version. But no need to no need to know everything about the working of a computer to understand that concept. So the recording was clean, and it was loud, and it was good. Okay, so it starts with the recording and all those little nuanced tricks I showed you. Okay, so my main goal here is to find the priority of the track, and then I'm going to listen to the sounds which sound dry or separated from the track, because I added reverb onto the melody, and I want the reverb to be a part of the sound. So I'm going to copy this reverb setting, drag it, save preset as, and I have to find a blank mixer track, which is going to be 12. Let's make sure, triple check, yeah, 12. So we're going to click here, go to save preset as, drag it over to 12. And that way I have the same exact settings as my melody. So I'm not trying to recreate the reverb. I have the exact settings. And this is going to be my reverb send, or reverb aux, whatever you want to call it. Okay. I'm going to send sounds to the reverb aux. So let's call this aux. Auxiliary. So I'm just thinking, okay, the main thing is the priority of sound. Is stuff too loud, too quiet? That's the priority of sound. Second thing is, do they mesh? So that's my philosophy right now. Priority of sound and do they mesh? So the vocal doesn't really mesh because it doesn't have anything on it. It's just plain. So it doesn't match the melody that has all that stuff on it. Reverb. So I'm just going to send an amount. You click on your vocal, then you click the up arrow here to send it, and then you pull back the send amount. Alive, alright. The duplex of that, the polar life. I'm like, the Trump is a. One thing I forgot to say is you want to turn the reverb on wet only. Okay, I forgot to mention that. So when you're sending the amount, it's sending a percentage. So it's similar to this knob here. I'm either sending 50% to the reverb or 25 or whatever. That's me moving that green knob. Okay, but when you have it on wet only, that's what it's doing. I had it off. I was wondering why I didn't hear the reverb so much. That's because I didn't do that first. Yep, I got that 40. Yep, I got that 40. Take it from the 40. Yep, I got that 40. Playing with that 40. Take it from the police. Yep, I got that 40. Take it from the police. Yep, I got that 40. Life, speaking of life, they taking a life to keep them alive. Alright, the duplex of that, the polar life. I'm like, the Trump is a president, cause he is white. Another cool trick you can do as an engineer is group the beat and then do that little mute effect that I did by accident. But to do that, you have to group the beat separate from the vocal. So let's see, where's our beat sounds? 1 through, it looks like 8, and then 9 is the mic. So 1 through 8, I'm gonna hit Control, left click and highlight all of these. And I'm gonna go to track 13, an unused track. I'm gonna right click and route to this track only. And keep in mind, this is gonna reroute any reverb, aux stuff that you have going on, so be careful there. But we're gonna route it all to one track and group it. So now this is the beat. And if you want to create those mutes, you right click and create an automation clip for the fader. Now I can go in and manage the volume. What I do first is right click the first node, hit C to copy, and then I go in and I find where I want to mute it, and then I right click points in and create a little box. I'll show you how to do it. Also change your snap to grid to get a more fine-tuned area. Another thing is this will help you manage you see the beats clipping. So instead of putting this soft clipper on the master track, I can put it on the beat. And that way it'll not clip the beat without doing everything to everything. Streets in the life, speaking of life. They taking a life to keep them alive. The duplex of that, the polar of life. I'm like, the Trump is a president, cause he is white. Nah, that's just the facts. We bring it back. Streets in the life, speaking of life. They taking a life to keep them alive. Streets in the life, speaking of life. They taking a life to keep them alive. The duplex of that, the polar of life. You can see we're still clipping on the master, so the master is way too loud. When we get to mastering, we're gonna turn the levels down. Where are we at? Fruity soft clipper. But right now, I'm just gonna let it be loud. Streets in the life, speaking of life. They taking a life to keep them alive. The duplex of that, the polar of life. I'm like, the Trump is a president, cause he is white. Nah, that's just a fact. Alright, whenever you want to emphasize something, you just block out the beat. It may or may not be hard hitting because I didn't. This is a freestyle, so I wasn't going in. But let me hear it. The Trump is a president, cause he is white. Nah, it's pretty. Yeah, the Trump is a president, cause he is white. Nah, that's just the facts. We bring it back. 100 to 1, 100 attached, you can get that. 100 a drum, and you can get that right up in your cap. So this freestyle verse is about taking out your competition, not literally. Okay, it's about, taking out your competition, whatever it is, basketball, football, whatever, business even. The Trump is a president, cause he is white. Nah, that's just the facts. We bring it back. 100 to 1, 100 attached, you can get that. 100 a drum, and you can get that right up in your cap. Not playing around, we speaking the facts. Speaking the facts. Hating a lot. Hating a lot. So again, I'm just taking my time going through, turning off the beat to emphasize the verse. That's all I'm doing. Hating a lot. I spray up the block. If you was an op, I'm taking my shot. Ducking from your homies, huh? Ducking from the police, huh? Hating a lot. Spray up the block. If you was an op, taking my shot. Ducking from your homies, huh? Rep the block. If you was the op, taking my shot. Ducking from your homies, huh? Ducking from the police, huh? Cause you got that 40, huh? Because you got that 40, huh? Ducking from your homies, huh? Because you got that 40, huh? So for this one, I'm not going to emphasize just what I'm saying, but I'm going to give room for the vocal to go 40, and I'm swelling up in volume, so it's woo, and then it goes up. So I'm going to do the same thing for the beat. I'm going to give it a linear fade. Cause you got that 40, cause you got that 40, ducking from your homies, ho. Ducking from your homies, ho. Ducking from the police, ho. Cause you got that 40, because you got that 40, ducking from your homies, ho. Ducking from the police, ho. Cause you got that 40, cause you got that 40, yep, I got that 40, ducking from the 40, yep, I got that 40, playing with that 40, ducking from the police, yep, we got that 40, ducking from the police, yep, we got that 40, ducking from your homies, huh? Ducking from the police, huh? So I'm done all these stylistic beat drops, but that's how you would do it to get that low pump effect where the beat drops like every bar. So beat drops are very underutilized because it's a mixing thing, it's a post-production thing, it's an afterwards thing. Alright, so now I'm gonna get the vocal to sound like it's above the beat, because right now it's kind of quiet at certain points. Yep, I got that 40, taking from the 40. Yep, I got that 40, taking from the 40, yep, I got that 40, playing with that 40, ducking from the police, yep, we got that 40, ducking from the police, yep, we got that 40, streets and yep, I got that 40, ducking from the 40, yep, I got that 40, playing with that 40, ducking from the police, yep, we got that 40, ducking from the police, yep, we got that 40. Only thing with too much compression is that you don't hear the swell of the volume anymore. So now it's just like ducking from the police. It's not like police. It gets louder. So you got to be careful with compression depending on the style of thing that you're doing. In this case, I'm going to pull back the attack so that it doesn't make the swell linear, because you can't tell the style that I was doing in the vocal. Take. Yep, I got that 40, ducking from the 40, yep, I got that 40, playing with that 40, ducking from the police, yep, we got that 40, ducking from the police, yep, we got that 40, streets is the light, yep, I got that 40, I'm moving faster here because we have full mixing courses on this stuff. Just gonna cut out some low end and add some frequencies I like. Yep, I got that 40, ducking from the 40, yep, I got that 40, playing with that 40, ducking from the police, yep, we got that 40, ducking from the police. Taking from the 40, Yep, I got that 40, Playing with that 40, Taking from the police, Yep, he got that 40, Taking from the police, Yep, he got that 40, Yep, I got that 40, Taking from the 40. Now to save time, I'm going to copy the same vocal settings over to the verse vocal, so we don't have to spend the same time doing the technical vocal. I'm going to call this hook 1, because then we have the ad lib. Yep, I got that 40. And I'm going to use the same thing on the ad lib, but just change the EQ so they don't have boost in the same area. So save mixer track state as. Okay, we ran out of plugin juice. So now we're going to leave that alone. Might as well hit E, delete. Yep. Delete this, I don't need that plugin. Delete, I don't need this plugin, delete. Trying to open up more resource power. Yep, I got that 40. Taking from the 40. Yep, I got that 40. Playing with that 40. Taking from the police. Yep, he got that 40. Taking from the police. To save resources, I'm going to run the vocals to the same thing, but in reality, I wouldn't do that. But again, I don't have 2 Apollos, so it ran out of power. Yep, I got that 40. Taking from the 40. Yep, I got that. So everything except the ad-libs is going to go through that vocal track. Now, it's not going to have the same style that I want, and I don't have enough time to work around it. Yep, I got that 40. Taking from the... But at certain points, I want a delay throw. We can do that with Fruity Delay 3. But until we get there, let's hear the mix. Yep, I got that 40. Taking from the 40. Yep, I got that 40. Playing with that 40. Taking from the police. Yep, he got that 40. Taking from the police. Yep, he got that 40. Streets in the life, speaking of life. They taking a life to keep them alive. Aight. The duplex of that, the polar of life. I'm like, the Trump is a president, cause he is white. That's just the facts. We bring it back. 100 to 1, 100 attached, you can get that. 100 a drum and you can get that right up. Alright, so you can see the verse is louder than the first hook take, so you don't want to push it through the compressors that hard. So what I'm going to do is just turn down the source volume instead of going through the plugins and changing it, because I need only 1 vocal track, which I usually wouldn't do. But we ran out of power. Yep, I got that 40. Taking from the 40. Yep, I got that 40. Playing with that 40. Taking from the police. Yep, he got that 40. Taking from the police. Yep, he got that 40. Streets in the life, speaking of life. They taking a life to keep them alive. Aight. The duplex of that, the polar of life. I'm like, the Trump is a president, cause he is white. That's just the facts. We bring it back. 100 to 1, 100 attached, you can get that. 100 a drum and you can get that right up in your cap. Not playing around, we speaking the facts. One time, yeah, one time, yeah. We in the grind, yeah, we in the grind, yeah. Streets in the light. So my goal right now is to find the original track and where it's routed, and just turn it down. Streets in the life, speaking of life. They taking a life to keep them alive. Aight. The duplex of that, the polar of life. I'm like, the Trump is a president, cause he is white. That's just the facts. We bring it back. 100 to 1, 100 attached, you can get that. 100 a drum and you can get that right up in your cap. Not playing around. speaking the facts.
One time, yeah, one time, yeah. We in the grind, yeah, we in the grind, yeah. It's 3:30 and it's 3:05, yeah.
So I'm gonna add in delay and just automate the mix level, turn it on and off. Streets in the life, speaking of life.
Yep, I got that 40, take it from the 40, Yep, I got that 40, take it from the 40, Yep, I got that 40, playing with that 40, take it from the police. Yep, he got that 40, take it from the police. Yep, he got that 40.
Streets in the life, speaking of life. They taking a life to keep them alive. Aight, the duplex of that, the polar of life. I'm like, that Trump is a president, cause he is white. Nah, that's just the facts. We bring it back. 100 to 1, 100 attached, you can get that. 100 a drum and you can get that right up in your cap. Not playing around, we speaking the facts.
One time, yeah, one time, yeah. We in the grind, yeah, we in the grind, yeah. It's 3:30 and it's 3:05, yeah. 3:05, baby.
So even though the wet level is pretty high, I'm still gonna have it do a triangular linear shape. So it's then it stops.
One time, yeah, one time, yeah.
Alright, so let's change it to beat.
One time, yeah, one time, yeah. We in the grind, yeah.
So I'm gonna make the peak right here and then have this do a linear thing like this.
One time, yeah, one time, yeah. We in the grind, yeah, we in the grind, yeah. It's 3:30 and it's 3:05, yeah. 3:05, baby, 3:05, yeah.
Oh, they hating a lot. I spray. So I like the delay here too.
One time.
And I'm gonna do the same linear thing. Oh, they hating a lot. 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 I spray up the block. Oh, they hating a lot. I spray up the block. If you was a op, I'm taking my shot.
Ducking from your homies, huh?
So I'm liking the delay, but I like to move my delays around. I don't like to keep it stagnant. Oh, they hating a lot. I spray up the block. If you was a op, I'm taking my shot.
Ducking from your homies, huh?
Oh, they hating a lot.
Ducking from your homies, huh? Ducking from your homies, huh? Ducking from your homies, huh? Ducking from the police, huh? Cause he got that 40, because he got that 40, ducking from your homies, huh? Ducking from the police, huh? Cause he got that 40, ducking from your homies, huh? Ducking from the police, cause he got that 40, cause he got that 40, Yep, I got that 40, ducking from the 40, Yep, I got that 40, playing with that 40, ducking from the police. Yep, he got that 40, ducking from the
cut the automation and just move it over because I don't want to draw the same triangles each time or sawtooth each time.
Ducking from your homies, huh? Ducking from the police, huh? Cause he got that 40, huh? Because he got that 40, huh? Ducking from your homies, huh? Ducking from the police, huh? Ducking from your homies, huh? Ducking from the police. Ducking from your homies, huh? Ducking from the police, huh? Cause he got that 40, huh? Because he got that 40, huh? Ducking from your homies, huh? Ducking from the police, huh? Cause he got that 40, huh? Cause he got that 40, huh? Ducking from your homies, huh? Ducking from the police, huh? Cause he got that 40. Yep, I got that 40, huh? Ducking from the 40, huh? Yep, I got that 40, huh? Playing with that 40, huh? Ducking from the police.
Now I'm going to sweep through the microphone and try to EQ out a zone that I don't like. It's just my room. You can hear the mic. There's like a resonance. I'm going to find it and take it out.
Yep, I got that 40, huh? Ducking from the 40, huh? Yep, I got that 40, huh? Playing with that 40, huh? Ducking from the police, huh? Yep, he got that 40, huh? Ducking from the police, huh? Yep, he got that 40, huh?
Streets in the life, speaking of life.
Yep, I got that 40, huh? Ducking from the 40, huh? Yep, I got that 40, huh? Playing with that 40, huh? Ducking from the police, huh? Yep, he got that 40, huh? Ducking from the police, huh? Yep, he got that 40, huh?
Streets in the life, speaking of life. They taking a life to keep them alive. Alright, the duplex of that, the polar of life. I'm like, the Trump is a president, cause he is white. Now we'll do a lot more cleaning up the vocal, like cutting out the air in the background and all the little gaps. But again, this is not a full on what I would do, but I don't care about it. But like little stuff, like the gaps in the audio, you can hear it because the compressors are pulling up the background noise.
Yep, I got that 40, huh? Playing with that.
Alright, so now the vocal's taken care of. I feel like we forgot something.
Yep, I got that 40, huh? Ducking from the 40, huh? Yep,
I would automate the reverb, but again, I'm not trying to sit here and do something nuanced for 2 hours here. I'm trying to cut down time. So now we're going to work on the master track, and you'll see what I do to do quick masters.
Yep, I got that 40, huh? Ducking from the 40, huh? Yep, I got that 40, huh? Playing with that 40, huh? Ducking from the police, huh? Yep, he got that 40.
For one, the whole thing is way too loud on the master track. We don't have enough room to do anything. It's already at 0. We need room to do stuff. So I need to pull the input levels down.
Yep, I got that 40, huh? Ducking from the 40.
So after I take off Fruity Soft Clipper, I'm going to replace it with like some kind of thing that lets me level. So let's start with an imager. Ozone, where we at? Ozone, isotope, ozone, imager. Now my favorite plugin, I still have to authorize these plugins, I forgot. My favorite plugin for imaging to widen out the track is Waves S1. I love that plugin for widening out the track. For whatever reason, it won't install on this. I don't know what's wrong with the thing. I have it and everything, but it won't I have to figure out why it's not installing. So until then, I'm going to use the ozone imager, and I'm going to, if you remember on the waves, it kind of does like a V shape. So I'm going to create a V shape using different bands.
Yep, I got that 40. Take it from the 40. Yep, I got that 40.
So 2 things about your mixing: you're either not widening your track enough or you're not compressing enough. Those are the 2 main things, because we're taught to never compress and never over compress and all this. But in reality, the songs you hear are like super, super compressed. So I want you to lift your brakes off, lift your foot off the brake and compress more. And also it's okay to widen your track. Okay? Don't freak out. Now, this is not stereoizing your track. This is widening the already wide stuff. Already stereo stuff, I mean.
Yep, I got that 40. Take it from the 40. Yep, I got that 40. Playing with that 40. Take it from the police. Yep, he got that 40.
Here, let's be level.
Take it from the police. Yep, he got that 40.
Streets in the life, speaking of life. They taking a life to keep them alive. Alright, the duplex of that, the polar of life. I'm like, the Trump is a president, cause he is white. Nah, that's just the facts. We bring it back. Alright, so let me see the beginning of the track stereo information again.
Yep, I got that 40.
So you can see it's dipping into the red, the phase polarity, correlation, phase correlation meters.
Yep,
This just tells you if it's too much stereo stuff going on. But this is because we're widening all the bands, and it's also no mono information going on.
Yep, I got that 40. Take it from the 40. Yep, I got that 40. Playing with that 40. Take it from the police. Yep, he got that 40.
See now how it's in the blue? So don't worry about the little dips in the red unless it's like super in the red.
Yep, he got that 40.
Streets in the life, speaking of life. They taking a life to keep them alive. Alright, the duplex of that, the polar of life. I'm like, now one trick I like is to make the bass separate from the other bands that got widened. So I unlink them and I usually pull the bass mono. So it creates a separation to the ear. The bass is like straightforward and mono, whereas everything else is wide, and it creates this time gap similar to a left and the right ear time gap, or a time gap with the drums, like, you know, like little time gaps like that. The same thing goes with your stereo imaging. Create the contrast.
Yep, I got that 40. Playing with that 40. Take it from the police. Yep, he got that 40. Take it from the police. Yep, he got that 40.
Streets in the life, speaking of life. They taking a life to keep them alive. Alright, the duplex of that, the polar of life. I'm like, the Trump is a president, cause he is white. Nah, that's just the facts. We bring it back. 100 to 1, 100 attached, you can get that. 100 a drum and you can get that right up in your cap. Not playing around, we speaking the facts. Okay. So now I can feel the track a little bit more at a lower level. I can hear the stuff that's actually loud versus the stuff that I thought was loud because it was loud. So the drums aren't, the transient part of the drums, like the kick and the snare, aren't as loud as I thought they were. I'm relying on the bass to kind of guide me through this track. So that means my transients aren't strong enough. Or the bass is too loud.
Take it from the 40.
Next up, we got a compressor, then I'll do an EQ, then a limiter.
Take it from the police. Yep, he got that 40. Take it from the police. Yep, he got that 40.
Streets in the life, speaking of life. polar of life. I'm like, the Trump is a president, cause he is white. Nah, that's just the facts. We bring it back. 100 to 1, 100 to... There's a bunch of different compressors. You can even use the isotope ones with the band restriction for the low end. Whatever you want to use here. The goal is just to pull the levels to feel more linear so that they feel more uniform and feel like one thing versus many different things. But also be careful not to shave off the punchiness of the drums.
Yep, I got that 40. Take it from the 40. Yep, I got that 40. Playing with that 40. Take it from the police. Yep, he got that 40. Take it from the police. Yep, he got that 40.
Streets in a life, speaking of life. They taking a life to keep them alive. Alright, the duplex. Let me just super compress it so you can hear what it sounds like. But the only thing is this compressor doesn't have that sidechain input, which will take out the kick frequencies that trigger the compressor. So the compressor is overreacting to every kick that happens.
Yep, I got that 40. Take it from the 40. Yep, I got that 40. Playing with that 40. Take it from the police. Yep, he got that 40. Take it from the police. Yep, he got that 40.
Streets in a life, speaking of life. They taking a life to keep them alive. Alright, the duplex of that, the polar of life. I'm like, the Trump is a president, cause he is white. Nah, that's just the facts. We bring it back. 100 to 1, 100 attached, you can get that. 100 a drum and you can get that right up in your cap. Not playing around, we speaking the facts. So then you have a compressor trying to act like a limiter, which is not. Okay, so I'm gonna get rid of this compressor for now. It's good, but it kind of over triggers. You can use any compressor. The goal is just to take off a little bit of dB to make the levels more linear, so to speak. So let's find a compressor here. Where's the compressor? Let's use the same one. I don't know why I took it off. I just wanted to reset the setting.
Yep, I got that 40.
So I have to wait till the loud part before I use the compressor settings because the threshold is different in the beginning than it is during the hook.
Yep, I got that 40.
As far as how much signal it's capturing.
Yep, I got that 40. Take it from the 40. Yep, I got that 40.
Also, now you can start to hear the problems in the audio is that the hook isn't loud enough, so the beat's too loud.
Yep, I got that 40. Take it from the 40. Yep, I got that 40. Playing with that 40. Take it from the police. Yep, he got that 40. Take it from the police. Yep, he got that 40.
Streets in a life, speaking of life. They taking a life to keep them alive. Alright, the duplex. I'm gonna add a simple EQ. Usually I do mid side, but there's not much I need to correct in the mid or the side. And then we'll move into a limiter and then I'll wrap it up.
Yep, I got that 40. Take it from the 40. Yep.
Also, you could look at mid side compressors too on your master bus.
Yep, I got that 40. Take it from the 40. Yep, I got that 40. Playing with that 40. Take it from the police. Yep, he got that 40. Take it from the police. Yep, he... Happy got the 40.
Streets in the life, speaking of life. They taking a life to keep them alive. Aight, the duplex of that, the polar of life. I'm like, the Trump is a president, cause he is white. Nah, that's just the facts. We bring it back. 100 to 1, 100 attached, you can get that. 100 a drum, and you can get that right up in your cap. Not playing around, we speaking the facts.
Yep, I got that 40. Took it from the 40. Yep, I got that 40. Playing with that 40. Took it from the police. Yep, he got that 40. Took it from the police. Yep, he got that 40.
Streets in the life, speaking of life. They taking a life to keep them alive. Aight, the duplex of that, the polar of life. I'm like, alright, so here is where it's about to get loud. So turn down everything in your house. Turn down everything. It's about to get loud. I'll wait. Turn it down. You didn't do it yet. Alright, now I warned you. Okay, your speakers could buzz and blow. You don't want that. Turn your volume down. Okay, let's get go.
Yep, I got that 40. Took it from the 40. Yep, I got that 40. Playing with that 40. Took it from the police. Yep, he got that 40. Took it from the police. Yep, he got that 40.
Streets in the life, speaking of life. They taking a life to keep them alive. Aight, the duplex of that, the polar of life. I'm like, the Trump is a president, cause he is white. Nah, that's just the facts. We bring it back. 100 to 1, 100 attached, you can get that. 100 a drum, and you can get that right up in your cap. Not playing around, we speaking the facts.
One time, yeah, one time, yeah. We in the grave, yeah, we in the grave, yeah. It's 303 and the 305, yeah. 305 and the 315, yeah.
Oh, they hating a lot. I spray up the block. Viewers are op. So now what you do once you have your mastering is go back and turn stuff down if it's too loud, like your hi-hat, your snare, and your vocal. So that's what I'm doing now.
Yep, I got that 40. Took it from the 40. Yep, I got that 40. Playing with that 40. Took it from the police. Yep, he got that 40. Took it from the police. Yep, he got that 40.
Streets in the life, speaking of life. They taking a life to keep them alive. Aight, the duplex of that, the polar of life. I'm like, the Trump is a president, cause he is white. Nah, that's just the facts. We bring it back. 100 to 1, 100 attached, you can get that. 100 a drum, and you can get that right up in your cap. Not playing around, we speaking the facts.
One time, yeah, one time, yeah. We in the grave, yeah, we in the grave, yeah. It's 303 and the 305, yeah. 305 and the 315, yeah.
Oh, they hating a lot. I spray up the block. Viewers are op. I'm taking my shot.
Ducking from your homies, huh?
Oh, they hating a lot. I spray up the block. Viewers are op. I'm taking my shot.
Ducking from your homies, huh? Ducking from the police, huh? Cause he got that 40, yeah. Because he got that 40, yeah. Ducking from your homies. that 40, ducking from the police. Yep, he got that 40, ducking from the police. Yep, he got that 40, ducking from your homies. Ducking from the police. Cause he got that 40, because he got that 40, ducking from your homies, ducking from the police, cause he got that 40, cause he got that 40, yep, I got that 40, ducking from the 40.
So now what I'm going to do is listen to the track at low volumes in my headphones just to make sure that the loud stuff is actually loud. So if you can hear it at low volume, that means it's actually loud. So I turned my headphones about halfway from where they were before. They were at about 50%. Now they're at 25%. I want to make sure I can really hear the loud parts, like the drums, the vocals, and everything else. I want to make sure the vocals can be heard. That's the main thing.
Yep, I got that 40, ducking from the 40, yep, I got that 40, playing with that 40, ducking from the police, yep, he got that 40, ducking from the police, yep, he got that 40.
Streets in the life, speaking of life. They taking a life to keep them alive. Aight. The duplex of that, the polar of life. I'm like, the Trump is a president, cause he is white. Nah, that's just the facts. We bring it back. 100 to 1, 100 attached, you can get that. 100 a drum and you can get that right up in your cap. Not playing around, we speaking the facts.
One time, yeah, one time, yeah. We in the grind, yeah, we in the grind, yeah. It's 305 and the 305, yeah. 305 and the 305, yeah.
They hating a lot.
One time, yeah, one time, yeah. We in the grind, yeah, we in the grind, yeah. It's 305 and the 305, yeah. 305 and the 305, yeah.
Hating a lot. I spray up the block. If you was a op, take him a shot.
Ducking from your homies, ducking from the police, cause he got that 40, because he got that 40, ducking from your homies, ducking from the police, cause he got that 40, cause he got that 40, yep, I got that 40, ducking from the 40, yep, I got that 40, playing with that 40, ducking from the police, yep, he got that 40, ducking from the police, yep, he got that 40, ducking from your homies, ducking from the police, cause he got that 40, because he got that 40, ducking from your homies, ducking from the police, cause he got that 40, cause he got that 40.
All right, so that is the full process. So thanks for watching today. And if you want to learn more about mixing, you can join now as a premium member at busyworksbeats.com. Thanks for watching. It's busyworksbeats.com.